All right, so we're going to try to keep this video short, but I wanted to talk about grease pencil in Blender and how you can use it for rough concepting. And we're going to get started here in Photoshop and kind of explain the process I go through when trying to generate ideas, the things I've been learning, and all that fun stuff. So I've been working heavily on practicing just basic geometric shapes and perspective. And normally I do traditional acrylic painting. I work with the idea of like, here's my canvas, and I need a subject here, and I need a subject here, and I'll work out like a silhouette, more or less, right, of my different shapes of whatever I'm creating. Let's say this is like some kind of spaceship or something, right? And then I'll have like a horizon line somewhere, a foreground, midground, and background, right? So like some clouds back here or something. Anyways, that's how I would paint, and then I would start to refine the silhouette and then fill it in and create my gradients or whatever else I might need to go along with it. I might create the gradient first, work background to foreground, or sometimes foreground to background, vice versa. Nonetheless, when creating like product designs or you're creating vehicles or something, usually doing 2D concept, you start with like your perspectives and you start blocking out different shapes. So you might just be creating boxes and things and doing these real rough sketches in perspective. Maybe you're just working in 2D. You might start and do something like this here, where it's just a flat image, but you'd start your concept with a very rough sketch and you just start filling out different shapes and designs and ideas and try to work them out, right? So this is something that a lot of people utilize. And there's other techniques as well, such as like photo bashing, but we're not going to get into all that here. If you want me to do more videos like that, though, let me know. We'll talk about it in future ones. All right. So that's kind of the process. You'll do a rough sketch, and then you might use like a liner pen later and just go back and clean up your lines, that kind of deal, right? And then you'll add shading, and you can add materials and textures and all kinds of other fun stuff, all the lighting and stuff to go along with it. Now, you can do this in Blender. Actually, there's a new scene to do a new 2D animation, right? And you can actually start drawing in here with the grease pencil and having a little bit of fun. For whatever reason, I have a little bit of a bug or something. Maybe it's just this version of Blender. Maybe it's just something to do with my graphics card, but it starts with a black screen until I make a stroke. And so if that's something you run into, just make a stroke. And you can sketch in here just like you would in Photoshop, pretty much. You got a pencil and a pen and all kinds of fun stuff. But the cool thing about this is in 3D, right? So just keep that in mind. We're going to go back to a new general scene. I find this is extremely effective, though, what I'm about to show you. You can actually draw onto shapes using a grease pencil. So most people think this is the grease pencil. This is an annotator. It just like lets you annotate your objects and write notes. And so you can swap Blender files back and forth with a team member and say like, this is wrong, and then point things out to them if you need to. But we're going to actually create a grease pencil. So we're going to go back to this, Shift A, grease pencil, and I'm going to create a stroke. I could do blank, but I'm going to start with stroke. And I can go into edit mode. So these strokes, the way they work, is they're just made up of points, basically. And it lays more or less like a 2D sprite or something onto the surface of that line, and it renders it, et cetera, right? I'm going to delete this one, get rid of all of it. And I'm going to go into draw mode. So Control Tab if you're not using the pie menu. You should get a pie menu. Or Control Tab or Shift Tab, one of those two. And otherwise, just get into the draw mode. And over here, we'll have some options. We're going to play around with these. If I was to just draw right now, it just goes wherever. So we're going to change it from origin to surface. Okay. And now if I draw on the surface, it looks like it's drawn on the surface, except it's hovering way up there. So we need to adjust the offset here. I'm going to change it to 0.01, and we'll start there and see if that works out. It should. Okay. Okay. So now it's drawing and it's wrapping around our object, which is great. Okay. Here's the trick. We're not going to change none of that. We're going to go to advanced. We're going to turn active smooth down. We're going to turn smooth down to 0. And we're going to go to simplify and turn that down to 0. And all this is going to do is give me a better result for this thing. Oh, also, we're using the pencil right now. I want to use the ink pen. So we need to adjust the settings for the ink pen here. So active smooth down, stroke smooth down to 0, and simplify to 0. And the surface should be the same here. It shouldn't be a big issue. So we can actually draw like this, okay? I think one of these didn't change. Like one of them didn't. Oh, maybe it has. When I press F, make this smaller. Press Shift F and turn the strength to max. Okay. And now we can draw like so. We get these nice little lines. You'll notice it creates this little line in the middle. That kind of distracts me, so I'll just turn off the whole thing over here, and so I can just see what I'm working with. We can start to draw on this shape. We can rough out different ideas and designs and other fun stuff. And so this is extremely useful if you're already working on a model and you might want to just see what an extension to it might look like, but you're not wanting to spend all the time modeling it yet. And you can also use this as a guide to model as well. So it's a type of way of concepting, and it can be extremely useful. So right now we can only draw on the shape. If we were to draw off the shape, you see what happened. It did this number, went to the edge of it, and then went up. That's something might be able to utilize. Just keep that in mind. But you can do something else that's really cool. So you can change it from surface to stroke. All right. Now there's three options down here at the bottom: all points, end points, or first points. You can play with these, but I find end points works best. So we're going to switch over to that. And so you can draw out here in 3D space, and you might end up with something like so. This is based on your view. Okay, so it's always going to shift around and change depending on how you move your camera and stuff. But what's really cool about this is if I go and I hit Alt while orbiting, I can draw from that out this way. And sometimes it gets it right, sometimes it doesn't. You see it started on this one, went kind of over here, and then went up. Not a big deal. And I can do the same here, but watch this, because we're probably going to start here, and it should end up over here, because it's going to try to connect to the endpoint, right? So it should work, right? And it did like so. It's not exactly perfect, but it's something that you can do, and it's pretty neat, right? It gets a little bit better because it's based on view. We can actually draw while orbiting around this thing, and as long as we get our views about right, we can connect them together like so, right? So you can see if I had got it right to that tip there, it probably would have worked even better. Okay, pretty close anyways. And so we can rough out 3D shapes in perspective as well. So we can say start here and then draw a curve out to that one. So you still got to remember perspective here a little bit and kind of create the right shapes. It might be off a little bit. Working in orthographic views usually works out best because your view is just slightly off. It's going to change the directions a little bit. But this is still extremely useful because now we can come in and say, draw a line like so, right? And now we can start to more or less create a 3D drawing, kind of fill out what we're doing. Maybe this is a building and we're adding some kind of greebly type extension to it or something. And it's pretty neat, right? So here's where it gets fun. This right now, this this drawing we just did, make sure it's selected. We go into the modifier panel, we can actually mirror it. All right, and of course it's always going to mirror across its origin point. And you can see here, the origin point's down here in the middle. There's this random stroke up here. You can go to edit mode, and so we can delete that one, delete those points. We can also select by stroke and do some other fun things in here. So you can do proportional editing. So if I press 1, 2, or 3, I can select these 3 different elements. I can say grab this point here, turn on proportional edit, press G, and I can start to shift things around if needed. So edit mode is still useful. In object mode though, we can add that modifier now. We can do mirror. There's other things here you can play with as well. But we're going to do a mirror. You'll see that it goes from this side over to this side. So now we can kind of fill out this whole shape on the other side. Here's the trick about this. It's a good idea to leave it off as long as you can because when you're drawing, it's good to work on only on one axis here, right? Because if you were to start, let's say we had mirror on and we started drawing over here, it's going to mirror to the other side like so. But you can use the eraser to erase this. And so if we can also access that with a hotkey. So if you hold control, you can start to erase. But you'll notice anything we drew originally over here will erase, while that line that we drew on the other side does not, and vice versa. So you can utilize that if you really wanted to, but it'd probably be pretty hard to remember each stroke where you placed it and whatnot. So just turn that on and off as needed, and it could be a lot of fun. Because of where my origin point is right now, if I hit Y, it will mirror on the other side as well. Okay, pretty cool, right? So we can block out these big ideas and these shapes and just draw them in real quick, and we don't have to think too much about it. Just set up a grease pencil in any scene you're working on, and you'll have it available and ready to go. So we're going to go back to draw mode. We are using a black material for this right now. We can switch to Vertex colors instead. And so we can also do this in colors. So we can differentiate different lines if we need to as well. So like say maybe you're drawing like a doorway onto this object somehow or some way. And maybe I need a secondary cut here. And you'll see that it did not show up as red. All right, and it should have been, but it's not. We may need to switch this over to Vertex over here and turn this off real quick. Right now, these are white. All of what we've already done is a white vertex. So keep that in mind. You might want to start with vertex and start with black to begin with. Now, for whatever reason, I remember doing this before and it came in as red without having to switch that. I don't know what's going on exactly right there. There's also random, which is, in my opinion, pretty cool as well. I like using quite a bit. All right. But we're going to go back to vertex and should be able to go into draw mode here. There's a tint brush. So we can change tint to black. Let's turn, make sure that's off. Okay, yeah. Let's turn it to full strength. Let's see if we can get everything kind of colored here real quick. K might flood fill this. I don't know. Might be a way to flood fill this. Oh, paint bucket. That might work. Ooh, maybe not. Maybe that doesn't work. Thought it was going to work. So definitely want to do tint then. If we have any tool settings here that we can change tint. Stroke and fill. Let's do fill. Nope. Feels weak, right? Like it's taking too long. It is working, but it's just taking too long. Make it real big then. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Now we can go back and we should be able to draw on our lines like so. Cool. All right. A couple ideas with this. You could use this in this manner. So you could block out a concept. So some concept artists work 3D models and then take them into a 2D program. And this will actually help you out with that as well. So normally you can do like a viewport, so click viewport render image. You can do something like this, which is real cool. You can also switch over to Eevee and you can turn on all kinds of different materials and stuff. This is something you might want to do. So maybe this cube's metallic, it's glossy or something, right? So you can work in this manner as well, and it will render that. Now the trick here is a lot of times you need this object with no background. So you go to your render settings if you're using Eevee, and I believe Cycles is the same, but you can do film, transparent. Now when you do viewport render, you'll get a transparent background here. So you can save this as a PNG file, bring it into your image editor of choice. Now I'm not going to be using materials, but just to kind of give you an example here, kind of position it, do whatever you want, render it, save a copy of it to desktop. I'm gonna replace that file and exit it real quick. Open. I can just Control A, Control C, Control V, copy and paste it in here, just like that. So that's really cool, right? Now we have something like this, but we did it in Blender to start with. And it gets a little bit better than this. I'm going to show you one more thing, and then we're going to call this video it quits. But the trick here is you can use this as a guide to model on as well, except you can't do it as a stroke. You have to just right-click, convert to a polygonal curve. Now this is different than a mesh, okay? But it has some similarities and some features. One of those being is that you can snap to the points that it's made out of. All right, so we're going to convert it to polygon curve. You'll see, actually, we have two models of this right now, I think. We go into edit mode. Oh, we had the icons off. There you go. So you can see here, we can go into edit mode. You see all the points. Cool. We'll turn off the original stroke real quick. Oh, maybe we can, maybe we can't. Okay, we can. We have this curve object to work with though, and maybe we want to delete some of this as well, just to kind of clean it up so we're not. All right, it's a good idea to be tidy, right? So now we can create a mesh plane, and kind of like doing regular standard retopology workflow, you can use this plane and snap to this object. And so we'll go into edit mode. I'm going to turn snap system from increment to vertex. You don't really need to change anything else. You can use each one of these vertices and snap it to this. So press G, hold control, and you can snap. Just that quick, and you're pretty much doing a retopo on this. Now, I would highly recommend keeping it as simple as possible and just using it more or less as like a block out. Because, for example, go back into edit mode here, and I'm going to turn proportional edit off. Trying to figure out why I'm getting the cut tool when I press 2. Machine Smart Edge is popping up. I had this happen earlier, so if you do use machine tools, occasionally this will happen where machine tools, for whatever reasons, forgets my hotkeys. So it's going to be a little interruption to this video, but you can see it reset to 1, 2, and it should be control. Smart Vert should be control 1. Smart Edge should be control 2. Offset Edges is control 2 as well. Or I'll unassign some of these things. See, cleanup's still control 3, so that's weird that it does that. I don't know why. So now I should be able to hit 2 and select edges. That's just a conflict between machine tools and Blender sometimes it happens. Not real sure why though. Maybe it's something else I press. So now we can take this edge and just press E, extrude it, grab the point, hold control, hit Alt Z to grab that one real quick, and snap it right here to this corner. And we can work around the other way now. So hit Alt, select that whole edge, bring it out, snap it here, snap it here, here. Okay, snap it up here. I would probably just model out the tip later on there. We can bring this section down as well. So we just bring it down, snap it here, here, et cetera, right? And it needs to be brought over so the symmetry would work with it as well. So keep that in mind. Might not be able to match that shape 100%. You get close, but it won't maybe be 100%. All right. So here's where it gets fun. The basic idea is there. So we can actually, if we've created this object correctly, the origin point would be in the middle here, but it's not. So I'm going to go to Object, Set Origin to 3D Cursor. This is a 3D cursor is at the world origin. So it'll line up now with the other object. Go to Mirror. Mirror on X, mirror on Y. We're going to turn on Bisect, Flip, and the other one should be okay, but we could bisect it if we want and flip it as well. And so now we have something like this going on. Could grab this whole edge here, press E and then X, just drag it over as far as you want really, and it will bisect. Okay, so you can do that over here as well. E and X, there we go. So this makes a good base here. Now I'm going to apply this mirror. Let's say we were trying to move this out and start working on it, modeling on it. So I'm going to go to object mode, press Control A, apply the mirror. We end up with this. We wouldn't need this at this point. We'd press H and hide it. Or we probably wouldn't need it anyways. You'll see that it's not very curved right here. It doesn't match kind of what we drew. We could add a loop cut and then match it to what we drew, but I'm going to show you a cool little trick. There's an add-on that's free. You have to kind of look it up. It's called Set Flow. All right, when you install this add-on, it's going to allow you to select things like this And now it works. We click set flow and boom, creates a little bit of curvature the way it should, right? We got that shape going now. We can always finish the model out, come in here, maybe do like a Control F grid fill, change the span here, the offset, something's wrong. Span, I think. There we go. Grab that point in the middle, proportional edit, pull it up a little bit, something like so. Maybe grab all of these, Control and Shift to select like that. And we are going to press Control V and smooth vertices, right? So we get a nice tip that we probably wanted when we drew it, right? And cool, we could shade it smooth. And if you model it correctly, it should be a quad mesh. You can subdivide it, get it even smoother. Now you can actually go back and start working on it. I would probably subdivide it once, press Control A, create a duplicate before you apply the subdivision like that. But now you can come in here and you can actually start probably working on this thing. I'm gonna select everything, merge vertices by distance. So hit M, merge by distance, make sure it's all cleaned up. See if I can select down to here to this point. There we go. I can do Alt E or Alt E, extrude faces along normal, and maybe push it in or pull it out, whatever the case. Let's push it in. You see how that works out, right? Delete those bottom faces. Continue to work on my mesh and refine it as needed, and create any kind of shape and thing I want, and using that 2D drawing in Blender to basically come up with my block out. So next time I go to subdivide this, if I had the model created correctly, not all this nonsense in the middle here, let's see if I can select that whole section. And Alt E is going to be machine tools align horizontal, or you could press S and then X and then 0. So you can scale them all at 0, then merge by distance, and you'll get 16 like so. That didn't work out too well, apparently. They don't quite all line up here. So we might need to grab this one, push it inwards, grab this one, hit G twice, and then slide it inwards. See what happens here. So I got rid of a little bit more, and it subdivides a little bit nicer. And so that's something you might want to consider doing. You can also grab other elements with that set flow add-on. You can kind of clean those up as well. You see we get a much better, nicer result there, right? And just a little side note, if you bevel a edge loop, insert edge loop inside of it, or give it when you do a bevel and hit mouse wheel up, you get that loop in the middle there. Scale that in, turn proportional edit off for this, scale that in a little bit, and start doing cuts like that in the models. So we might want to do that one there, and then also do one like that right here. Maybe something we want to do. This one's going to be a little bit harder to do because you can see as I scale it, it doesn't kind of scales in at different directions a little bit. So with something like this, I'll bevel it, and I won't add the loop cut, but I'll grab the whole loop, make sure I'm in face for this, press Alt-E, extrude faces along normals, and I'll push it in on their normals, usually. Sometimes you might run into an error. Let's turn this off in edit mode real quick. Sometimes you might create an error by accident, but just check it, look around, and see if everything looks like it's working. And it is. So I'll add a loop cut now in the middle. And what I can do is I can grab this loop and hold Alt-Shift, grab the other loop. I can dissolve those, and we'll end up with that same kind of topology in there in the middle, except it'll be based on the face normals now. So we can create this nice clean cut here as well. And you can go crazy with this and do all kinds of other modeling tricks, right? But anyways, that's it for this video. Just keep that in mind. At any point, you can take these kind of things out of Blender and put them back into your 2D drawing software, or you can draw on it some more in Blender, if that's what you want to do. And so these kind of things become extremely useful because as a concept artist, it's just about getting a good result as fast as possible, right? So you can do other techniques like photo bashing or whatever, but this is certainly um, something you could do as a base, right? So you can come in here and you can even draw on it now in your 2D drawing application and have a little bit of fun with it. So if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Um, if you want to see more about just 2D drawing and just general other stuff like that, let me know. We can actually, I'll actually do some more about that and talk about maybe like photo bashing or how to combine images together or do drawings in perspective and all that other fun stuff. So, it's something I've been working on a lot more as of late. So I may not have all the answers, but generally speaking, it's pretty simple, kind of. There's a lot to learn. And also, someone a long time ago asked about explaining art fundamentals. So different things like color theories and tones and all that fun stuff. So, we could probably do that as well. Just let me know what you think in the comments. And hope you enjoyed the video. I'll check you out next time, all right? So take care.